Yeah, fine. So, can we just resume on that? So, I think Mahesh was answering that, right? Mahesh, Mohit, anyone else who wants to answer this? Anyone else?
Sir,
To
data
solve some real
structures
world
are
problems.
One at a time, please.
used to.
Yeah.
So like they used to solve some real world problems.
Okay. Real world problems. Okay, that's fine. Anything else? Real world problems, storing the data, manipulating the
when you
data
want to when you want to store and manipulate data in an optimized way,
in an optimized way.
you use you use
Okay.
DSA.
Okay. Anything else, or should I move ahead? To
To
improve time
improve the
complexity.
efficiency of the code and to
Mhm.
reduce time and complexity.
To reduce time and complexity, time and space complexity. Right. Okay, fine. So see here. So this whole thing is comprises of two things. The first thing is your data structure, and the second part of this whole approach is algorithm. So, in total, we'll always deal with this thing that we should be going with data structures and algorithm. We will be well versed with this before before going for any particular OS or any coding interview. But why? Right. So the first word, which is your data structures, it simply denotes the container which you'll be using to perform or to store that data. Let's say to store anything, you'll be needing a container. Fine. And this particular container will be having some sort of properties. This container will be having some sort of pros and some sort of cons, right? So maybe this will be taking more time to store any data, but when you're retrieving that particular data, it takes less time. Fine. So every container will be having some sort of pros and some sort of cons for that, right? So you will be thinking about this thing that which data structures will be used first. The first priority is which data structures you will gonna use to perform this operation to store that data. Second, to store that data and to perform some sort of manipulations in that, you will be needing some ways, right? You'll have to follow some sort of strategies, right? And the strategies, the ways which you will be going with to perform the manipulation, the storage of this data is called as algorithm. Fine. So in total, storing and manipulating the data in a more optimal way is the main motto of using data structures and algorithm. Can I expect a yes if you guys are clear with this? Can I?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Are we on the same page? Okay. Now we have five things in total. So I can say one thing that if you're dealing with data structures and algorithm, you're always going with five basic operations in any data structure. Fine. So I can say this thing that on if you're solving any particular problem, if you're going with any particular issues, so you'll be always dealing with five things, and this will be throughout the journey of your data structures. Fine. The five operations are either you will be searching anything. Second, either you are arranging that particular data sets. Arrangement means arranging the whole data in ascending order or arranging the whole data in descending order. Fine. So the first operation which you may be making on any data structure is you would be searching for any element, right? You would be searching for any particular data that is my data exists in this whole data structures or not. Fine. Second, the arrangement of those data sets that is being shorting. Right. And the third operation which you're gonna perform upgradation or deleting something from that data set. Fine. If you're adding or if you're updating that data sets with any particular value, that operation will be called as insertion. Fourth, you are searching any particular element. You are arranging the data sets. Third, you are inserting any element. Fourth, you may be deleting any element from that whole data set. That is deletion. Fine. And the fifth operation which you'll be performing is traversal. So what does this traversal means? Let's say I have a container, and in this container I have stored the values of integer types, right? I have 1, 5, 6, 9, and 11. Fine. So for all these data values, so there would be a condition that I just want to see all the values which this container holds for me. So the values are 1, 5, 6, 9, 11. So traversal simply means seeing the data sets, seeing the data of your container. Fine. So your whole data structures is revolving around these five operations. The first operation is searching any element. Second, arranging that whole data sets. Third, inserting any element in that data set, deleting any element from that data set, and seeing the content, seeing all the elements of that data set. Fine. Give me a thumbs up if I'm clear on this. If I'm clear with all these five operations.
Could you please explain transfer, sir?
Traversal, right? It's not transversal, it's traversal. Okay. So let's say this is a container. Let's just go in layman, right? This is a container which holds 10 kg of bananas for you, right? And person comes and he was like, hey man, can you just show me the quality of bananas you're having in this container? So to see the quality, that person will be saying the whole bananas of your container. Fine. So seeing the content of your container, seeing the whole content of your container is being called as traversal. Same as, let's say I have an array. So we will be discussing this thing that what array exactly means. But for now, it is a container which stores multiple values for you, right? So let's say I have 5, 9, 10, 12, and 16. And a person comes and he was like, hey man, can you just show me the data? Can you just show me the data values of your array? So what will I be doing? I'll be saying, hey man, I have 5, 9, 10, 12, 16. So to seeing your data values to get the whole content of your container is called as traversal. Am I clear now? Like the person who was asking, I think Ayush, right? Who was asking? Am I clear with this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Now we have some basic rules, we have some basic protocols while dealing with data structures. Fine. So throughout the problem solving, throughout the whole thing, you will always be revolving around two conditions. The first condition is how much time is being required to solve that particular logic, that is being called as time complexity. And second, space complexity. So what does space complexity means? So we will be discussing in whole that what do we mean by time complexity and space complexity. Fine. So before that, just take 10 seconds and revise the things which we have discussed till now. And if you want to ask anything, just please ask. You have 10 seconds. Fine. I'm all ears. Anything which you're not able to get out of all these things which we have discussed till now. Just go ahead, please. Anything? Am I clear with? Are we on the same page? Okay. Okay. Let's make it interactive, guys. Please. Okay, fine. Now, someone was saying, sir, can you just brief us? Can you just brief us about the variables and data types and functions and all? Like, so the basic things which we can cover in a very short duration of time, that is your data types. The second, we have the variables. And third, we have the basic thing that is functions. The first thing is data type. So the topics which we are discussing right now, it is independent of any particular language, right? So you don't have to be worried about this thing that I'm writing my code in Python, C++, Java. All these topics are language independent, right? So the definition will be same throughout the languages. The implementation will be same throughout the languages. So what are data types? Let's say I have a value that is my age, right? I'm 23. So to store this particular value, I have to take a container which stores values of integer types, right? So 23 is an integer value. Fine. And to store an integer value, I'll have to take a container which stores integer value for me. Fine. So on the basis of my data value, I will be deciding the container type. So as I just told, the container will be categorized on the basis of the size of that container, and second, the value which can be stored in that container. So for now, data type is a container to store the values, right? And that particular container will be categorized on the basis of size of the container. Second, the value which can be stored in that container. Fine. So I have 23. 23 is an integer value. And to store my integer value, I'll have to take a container which stores integer values. That is, if I'm writing my code in Java, so I'll be writing int. If I'm writing my code in C++, I'll be writing int. And in Python, we don't have to specify, right? We don't have to specify the type of that data. I can directly write a is equals to 23. Fine. So data type simply means it is a container in which the value can be stored. Fine. The property of that data which will be stored in a container. So a container specifies two things. What's the size of your value? Second, the type of that value. Size means it can be in bytes. So we will cover that thing in a brief. But for now, just get one thing, that a container will be categorized on the basis of two properties: the size of that data which can be stored in that, and the type of that data which can be stored in this container. Guys, am I clear with data types?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Uh,
sir. Yes, sir.
do you guys want to ask anything? Please ask. Somebody is waiting to get into the class. Please allow. Hey Pragati, you there? Yeah, hey Pragati, you there? Where's she? By the way, how do you know this thing that someone is waiting? Shreyas, give me a moment. Let me give a call. Yeah, I text my coordinator, so he'll help you. Hmm. Okay, fine, no issue. So till now, is there anyone who's having any doubt related with the operations which will be used in data structures and what is a data type? Is there anyone? Okay. So the next topic is variable. So anyone just unmute yourself and give me a second. Just unmute yourself and tell me the meaning of a variable, that how we will gonna use a variable and why we use a variable. Anyone? I'm expecting that you people would be knowing this, right? Please unmute yourself and tell me what is a variable. Uh, Akash, you can go ahead.
Yeah, very well. Actually, we are denoting for the data.
So we are store our data inside variable, means we
Mm-hmm.
are labeling to our data.
Okay. Tell me one thing, Akash. With the help of data type, I'm storing my data, and you are saying this thing variable is being stored. Variable is being used to store data. So what's the difference? Both are doing the same thing, na? Yeah, Palak.
The वेरिएबल में डेटा चेंज भी हो सकता है और
Variable में data change भी हो सकता है. Is it it,
But
it is it the right definition?
uh,
Yes, it's basically it's a variable to store data, and it can be changed while execution of program. It can be
While
changed. Variable is changed.
okay. So
Yes.
something whose value is not fixed. Can say that.
कांस्टेंट कांस्टेंट
Constant.
नॉट
Okay,
फिक्स्ड और फिक्स्ड
okay.
Sir, it is
Yeah,
basically a named storage location which is used to store values.
yeah. That's the right answer. So from now onwards, you guys won't be giving this definition that variable is being used to store data. Fine. So what's the real definition? So let's have a real world example. So let's say this is your house, right? And in this particular house, you have three floors, one, two, three, and every floors you have in total four rooms, right? So what you did, let's say you have a box which is being named D1, and what do you want? You call your maid and you ask her, hey, just just find this bag for me. And I don't know the exact location, but I know one thing, that this bag will be available in one of the room. So I have in total 12 rooms. So what your maid will do, your maid will search in every particular room. Fine. And let's say we are going in the worst condition. We are going with the worst case scenario. So let's say please mute yourself. Someone's mic is on. Yeah, thank you. So let's say if we are going in the worst case scenario, let's say the bag is in this last room. Fine. And let's say to search in a particular room, your maid is taking 1 minute in total. And if she will be going in the worst case scenario, you would be taking in total 12 minutes to search this particular bag. Fine. So let's say you ask your maid, hey, you have to be here in 2 minutes. So the time limit has been exceeded. Fine. The deadline was of 2 minutes, and the maid is writing the whole thing in 12 minutes. Fine. Second, what you did, you were like, hey, just go on the second floor, and in the third room, have kept this bag. So what your maid will do, your maid will be using the stairs, will go at second floor, will search the bag in this particular room, and then she'll bring that bag for you. And that process will hardly take 1 minute. So what you did, so let's say you told her that the bag is at the third floor and it's in the second room. The bag is at the first floor, is it's in the first room. So this first room, first floor, second room. So the room number, the specification of that floor, the specification of that room is called as variable, right? So from now onwards, you won't be saying this thing variable is being used to store the data. Variable is the reference of store data. Fine. Variable is the location of store data. So the bag is in the second room, the bag is in the third room. So the second, third is called as the variable names, the location name of your data. So if this bag is your data, this room is your memory, and this second room is your variable name. So if I have to call you, the very best thing which I can do is I'll be calling your name. So for your whole body, for your whole structure, the variable is the variable is your location. So if I have to call you, if I want to talk to you, so what I'll be doing, I'll be calling your name, which is a variable for me. Fine. So data type, so the difference between data type and variable is Data type is being used to store the values on the basis of two things: the size of that value, second, the type of that value. And the variable is being used to give the reference to store data. That means the data which has been stored for you, you are giving a location, you are giving a reference to that data. That's it. So this name is your variable, this bag is your data, and this room is your memory. Guys, are we on the same page? Am I clear with the definition of variable? If you want to ask anything, please ask. I'm all ears. पलक, I think आप यही बोल रहे थे exactly. Fine.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. पलक and आराधना, आप यही बोल रहे थे exactly.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So anything else? कुछ पूछना है आपको इसमें? Shrutika, you've raised your hand. Is there anything to ask? Could you please explain once in brief? Which one, Harsh? Variable or data type? Harsh Jan. Which one? Variable or data type? Both. Okay. Let's say I have an integer value that is 24, and I'll have to store this 24 in a container which stores an integer value for me. So every container will be categorized on the basis of two things: the size of that container, second, the type of container. So a container which can store integer values for me cannot store a character for me. A container which can store a character for me cannot store a decimal value for me. Fine. So this decimal character integer is type of the value. And suppose I'm storing 24, and on the other hand, I'm storing 24 lakhs. So this is the size of my data. So a data type is something, a container in which you will be storing your data. And that data will be categorized on the basis of two things: size of that data and the type of that data. Right. But on the other hand, if I'm going with the variables, so what variables are? Variables aren't used for storing the values. Variables are the reference of stored data. Let's say this is my memory, and your whole memory works on blocks, right? So these will be some set of blocks. So in these set of blocks, let's say your data 24 is here. So the location of this particular data inside your memory is variable. Fine. So variable is not being used to store the data. Variable is being used to give the location of your stored data. That's it. So the difference between data type and variable is data type is being used to store the values on the basis of two properties: size of that container and the type of that value. Second, a variable is the reference of stored data, is a location of stored data. Harsh, I hope am I clear now? Your voice is not audible to me. Mohan Raj, can you join again? Is there anyone who is having the same issue?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, thanks, man.
We are you are audible, right?
Mohan, buddy, can you do one thing? Can you just rejoin? I think you're having some bandwidth issue. Okay, fine. Now we are done with. So let me just write the definition for you. And don't be worried about that. I'll be sharing this whole sheet with you, the sheet on which I'm writing right now. Right? So we are done with data types. It is used to store the values on the basis of size, second, type of data. And second, we have variables. That is a reference or location of stored data. That's it. So now we have two things in total. The first thing is how can we use the container and how can we declare a variable and how can we initialize a variable. So in total, there are three things: deciding a container, second, declaring a variable, and third, initializing that variable. So the very first thing which you will be deciding is which container will be used. Second, how can I give a value to this variable? Third, how can I declare this variable? Third, how can I give a value to this variable? So let's say what I have to do, I have to store my name, right? Leave that. I'll have to store my age, right? So this is not my age, right? So the thing is I'll be deciding the container type. So I know one thing, if I'm writing my code in Python, so I don't have to specify my data types. I can directly write a is equals to 30. But when I'm writing my code in C++ or in Java, I'll have to specify the data type of my variable. Fine. So because Python is loosely typed. Fine. So let's say if I'm writing my code in C++, so first I have to decide this thing in which container I'll be storing my data. So if I have an integer value, so I'll have to use an integer data type. That means int. Fine. So this will specify the type of value which will be stored in this container. So I'm storing an integer value. So for that, I will be needing an int container. Now, the value has been decided, the container has been decided, but what about the location, the name of that location where I'll be storing this data? So it can be anything, but it should be genuine, right? If I'm storing my age, so I'll be using a variable name age. So deciding a container, declaring a variable. So the moment when you have written the name of a variable, when you have decided the name of a variable, that step is being called as declaration. And the moment when you have assigned a value to that variable, that step is being called as initializing a variable. Let's say what I did, I have written both the things in the same line. Let's say int age is equals to 23. So this step is being called as declaration and initialization. In the same step. That's it. Guys, are we on the same page? Are you guys clear with the declaration, initialization, and deciding a container? Is there anything to ask? Okay. Okay. The next thing we have is functions. Now unmute yourself and tell me that what do you mean by functions? Why we use that?
For use the functionality.
Functions is used to reduce repeated code and ungroup the block of code.
To reduce the given code or
unblock the group of code in a single section.
In a single section. Okay. Okay. Anything else? Excluding this, anything else? Uh,
So
Akash, mm-hmm.
functions are basically operations that we can perform on the data.
The operations which we can perform on the data. Okay. On the data or on the data sets.
So on the data sets, not on
Okay.
the data.
Okay. Okay. Uh, Anyone else or should I start with the definition? Is there anyone जिसको कुछ और ऐड करना है इसमें? Okay, no issue.
Sir,
Uh,
it is something which can be reused in a program, like
okay.
a block of code which can be reused.
Okay, fine. That's it. Okay. So the thing is, if you're using anything, so there should be one thing which should be clear. That is the motto of using that. Fine. So the motto of using function is to achieve code reusability. Fine. So what is code reusability? So let's just go through with it in brief. Let's say at line number 4 you're writing a code, and at line number 4 the requirement is to add two numbers, and the numbers are 25 and 20. So the resultant would be I think 45. Yeah, 45. So at line number 4 you are about to add two numbers, and those two numbers are 25 and 20, and the resultant was 45. And let's say after a certain amount of time, when you were at line number 21, fine, at line number 21 you would be still needing a plus b, and this time your a is 10 and b is 15, and the resultant is 25. And same goes with you are at line number 39, and you're about to do the same thing, a plus b, and a is 5 and b is 10, which is 15. So tell me one thing, every time declaring two variables with different values and performing the same operations again and again, again and again. So tell me one thing, is it an optimal approach? Just say me yes or no. Writing the same thing again and again, again and again will reduce your time or will increase your time?
Increase time.
Increase
Okay.
your time.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, can we just come up with an approach where we will be passing two values and my whole thing will be done, right? Can I do one thing? Can I make a function by the name of add, and I'll be passing two parameters a and b, and I'll be calling this function. Let's say for the first time when I'm calling this function, I'm passing 25 and 20. So for this function will return me 45. And for the second, I'm passing 10 and 15. And for this, I'm passing 5 and 10. That's it. So a function is being used to achieve code reusability, or in short, it is a block of statement. It is a block of statement which is being used to perform any particular instruction. So the instruction of this add function is to add two values, that is a comma b. I can have multiple values. I can have values more than two. Let's say I have four values, a, b, c, and d. Fine. Let's say my motto is to divide two numbers. So I'll be having a function with name div, and I'll be having a comma b. The resultant will be a by b. And let's say I have a function to multiply two values. So I'll be having a comma b, and the resultant will be a into b. Fine. So functions are being used to perform any specific instruction, and the main motto of using a function is to achieve code reusability. Write once and use for many. That's it. एक बार लिखो और बार बार यूज करो by passing the different parameters, by passing the different values. So guys, are we on the same page related with functions? If you have any doubt, please ask. Are we, are, are we clear with functions? What are functions? Why we use functions? Okay. Now we have one more thing that is being called as types of function. Fine. So if you're writing your code in Python, so Python supports a very good amount of functions which are inbuilt. But if you're going with Java, C++, so you'll be having some user-defined functions and some functions which are by default for you. So on the basis of definition, we have two types of functions. The first type is user-defined functions, and the second type is inbuilt functions. So as we have just discussed now, user-defined functions are those functions which user will gonna define. The functions to add two numbers, the functions to subtract two numbers, and the functions to divide two numbers. We don't have any inbuilt functions for these particular operations. Maybe in Python, we would be having any functions, but right now we don't have any functions which will add two numbers for me, which will subtract two numbers for me, and which will divide two numbers for me. But the functions which are being written for you, which are being in by default state for you, that is, if you're writing a code in Python, so we have a print function. So if I'll write my name here, and if I'll run this program, I'll be able to see my name in output window. If I'm writing my code in Java, so I'll be writing system dot out dot println and Nathan. If I'm writing my code in C++, so what I'll be writing C out Nathan. So the thing is, the functions which you don't have to make, the functions the functions whose functionalities, how the functions work, how the implementation work, you don't have to think about this thing. Like everything is being pre-written for you. The functions which are being pre-written for you are being called as inbuilt functions, and the functions which you will gonna define according to your requirement, that are being called as user-defined functions for you. Guys, are we on the same page? What is the difference between user-defined functions and inbuilt functions? Am I clear with this? Is there anything to ask? Okay. Now we have one another definition that is being called as types of functions on the basis of parameters and return type. Fine. So on the basis of definitions, the functions are of two types. The first type is user-defined functions, and the second type is inbuilt functions, right? The functions which a user will define is called as user-defined, and the functions which is being pre-written for you, that are being called as inbuilt functions. So functions are being categorized on the basis of parameters and return type, and they are of four types. Fine. The first type is a function which is having no return type and no parameters. Fine. So what does it mean? A function which will not be having any parameter and any return type. So let me just open my code editor. It's taking much time. By the way, how many of you are from Python? Akash, Neha, Shikha, Sagar, Sain. Okay. Radhana. Okay. I think 10. Okay, 10 to 15. And how many of you are from C++? Okay. And what about the Java? From JavaScript. No, Chennai Krishna. It's I'm learning Java. Okay. If you are into JavaScript, so it won't be a very big task for you to shift yourself in Java. Okay, fine. So what I'm doing, I'm just explaining you the things in Python. Fine. Then I'll be elaborating the whole thing in Java and C++ also. Fine. Is it clear? Is it clear? Because the things which I'm starting with is not, it's just the basic things and it's not language independent, but it's our first class. So I'm assuming this thing that I'll have to give some sort of intro for every programming language, right? So let's say what I'm doing, I'm just close this. Let me just choose Python. What I'm doing, the first function is a function without parameter and with no return type. Fine. So what's that function? That function will not be returning me anything, and that function will not be taking any parameter from me. Right. So the keyword of declaring a function, defining a function, def, and the name of that function. Let's say what I'm doing, I'm using a function, I'm calling a function which will simply print good morning with my name. Fine. So def morning, and I'm not passing any parameter. That is print, hey Nitin, good morning. Fine. And I'm just closing this. And on the next line, I'm calling this function that is morning. Fine. Let's run this. I have hey Nitin, good morning. Right. So if you'll notice, every time when I'll be calling this function will be printing only a single thing for me. Fine. Every time it will be giving me the same instruction because I'm not clarifying the whole function on the basis of parameters, and I'm not configuring this function on the basis of return type. So I'm not returning anything. I'm not giving any parameter. So this function is just a doll for me. This function is just, uh, what should I say? It's just a robot for me, right? So it will be giving me every time same instruction. That is, hey, nothing, good morning. So the moment when I'll be calling this function again and again, it will be giving me the same instruction. So a function which is having no return type and no parameters will be used very less because the instruction will be always constant. Fine. Second, we have a function. Let's say before that, guys, are we on the same page? Am I clear with a function without parameter and without return type? Am I clear with this? Is there anything to ask? I think language would not be a barrier because I haven't written any complex thing. Okay. Okay. Now we have a function which will be having a parameter but no return type. Fine. This time I'll be having the parameters but no return types. Say having this function with parameter and no return type. So let's make a function def, and what I'll be doing, I'll be making a function which will add two numbers for me, addition, and I'll be passing two parameters, a comma b. Fine. So what are the parameters, the values which will be passing, the values, the reference which you will be passing while declaring your functions are being called as parameters, right? So what this function will do, this function will not return me anything. So instead of that, what I'll be doing, z is equals to a plus b, fine, and I'll be just printing the value of my z. That's it. And I'll be calling this function in the next line, that is addition. And while calling this function, I'll be passing two values, that is 10 and 20. Fine. Let's run this. I have 30. So let's say I have passed 10 and 50. And I'll run this. I'm having 60. So if you will notice, I have parameters, but I don't have any return type of this function. Fine. And the moment when I'll be changing the values, I'll be changing the arguments of my functions, the whole result will be changed. If I have passed 10 and 50, I'll be getting 60. If I have passed 5 and 15, I'll be getting 20. So let me tell you the difference between parameters and arguments. Fine. But before that, guys, are we on the same page? Are we clear with a function with a parameter and no return type? Am I clear with this? Say me yes or no.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So let me tell you the difference between parameters and arguments, right? So let's say I have a function, and in that function, I'm passing two parameters, that is a comma b. And the moment when I'm calling this function, let's say the name of this function is add. And the moment I'm calling this function add, I'm passing 10 and 50. And I'm getting a result called 60. Fine. So the thing is, the values which you will be passing. So at this particular moment, when I'm declaring this function, these A and B are the reference of my data. They're not my exact data. They are the reference of my data. That means when the user will be calling this particular function, he will be passing two values, and the reference of those values are these two parameters. Fine. So function declare करते समय, the values which will be passed, the reference which will be allocated, that are being called as parameters. And the moment when you will call this function to get the desired output, that will be called as arguments. Fine. So this 10 and 50 will be called as arguments, and this A and B will be called as parameters. Are we on the same page? Am I clear with arguments and parameters? Say me yes or no. Is there anyone who is still confused between parameters and arguments? Please पूछ लो आप, because I won't be expecting this thing कि after a certain amount of time हम फिर से ये topic discuss करेंगे. Am I clear? Okay, fine. Now the third type of function is a function which is having both a function with parameters and return type. So this time, this function will be having a parameter as well as this function will be having a return type. Fine. So let's make a function def and add, and the role of this function is to add two values, that is a comma b. Fine. And this time I won't be using any extra variable. I won't be printing the values. I'll just return a plus b here. Fine. So let's call this function. So the moment when I'll call this function, see, Where's that? A comma B. Okay. This is showing me an error because while declaration of this function, I have passed two parameters. So while calling this function, I'll have to pass two values, 12 and 20. Let's run this. I so can anyone tell me why I'm not getting anything in output? Why I'm not getting 32 as an output? What's the issue?
So because print statement is missing.
Print statement is missing. Okay. So what's the difference between giving a print statement and giving a return type?
So print statement is used to like display the output, but return type just returns the value
Okay.
after the
Okay.
instruction being passed.
Okay. So the thing is, the moment when I'm printing that value, I can see the value of that particular variable in my console window. So the thing which you're seeing in this whole black screen that's being called as console window. Fine. Second, when I'm returning that particular value, this function is associated with one of the value. The moment when you will call this function, now this function will be having a value associated with that. So what I'm doing, I'm calling this add function, I'm calling this function, but this time this function is not printing anything. This function is bringing a value for me. And if this function is bringing a value for me, and if I want to see that value, if I want to print that value, I'll have to write the whole thing in my print statement. Let's run this. And now I have 32 because I cannot print any value without using any print statement. First, second thing, this whole function is bringing a value for me. So that value should be taken as taken as a variable, or it should be written in print statement. You can also do one thing. Instead of writing this, let's declare a variable. Answer is equals to, let's call this function add 10 comma 20, and instead of printing that function, let's print this answer. That's it. Let's run this, and I have 30. So if a function is returning anything, that simply means that function is associated with a value. And to see that value, I'll have to write the whole thing in a print statement, or I'll have to associate a variable to that function call. That's it. Guys, am I clear? Am I clear with this? How print statement, and we need to capture in variable. Very good. How print statement and returning any value is different, right? And the fourth portion, that is, let's say the fourth portion is function which doesn't have parameters, and it has only return type. So the fourth and the last type is a function with no parameters and a return type. A function without parameter but has a return type. Fine. So you won't be using this particular function throughout your journey, but you should be knowing the meaning of this function. So I have def, that is hello, and I'm just returning my name, Nathan. That's it. And Nathan is a string value, so the whole thing will be written in double quotes, right? So what I'm doing, I'm just calling this function, and this function will be associated with one of the value. So I'll be writing the whole function, and I'll be calling the whole function in my print statement. That's it. Let's run this. I have Nathan. So why we are not using this function? Because every time when I'll be calling this function, it will be giving me a same value. Every time it will be giving me a same value. Either I'll be calling this function for 10 times, 20 times, 50 times, it will always be giving me nothing. Fine. So the motto of achieving code reusability will not be done by using this particular function, because every time the output is same. So what will be the function which will be used in most of the cases? a function which is having a parameter as well as and a return type. The function which will be categorized on the basis of parameters and parameters and return type, you will gonna use this particular functions throughout your problem solving. Fine. So out of all these four functions, this particular function is damn important. That's it. So let me just recall all of the things which we have discussed today. So let's say we have started with the basic definition of data structures. Fine. Then what's the meaning of data structures and as well as algorithms? Fine. Then what's the meaning of containers? How can we configure which data structures will be chosen? Second, the basic operations which are being done to solve any problem, that is searching any element, arrangement of the data sets, inserting something, deleting something, and traversal of that whole data structure, like seeing the content of that data structure. Fine. Then we have seen that what is a data type, what is a variable, and we have discussed our whole things will be revolving around two properties, that is time complexity and space complexity. So we'll be discussing this whole two things in tomorrow's lecture. Then we have data types, variables. Then we have discussed the difference between data types and variables in brief. Then we have discussed functions on the basis of definitions, and functions on the basis of parameters and return type, in which we have seen four different functions. And the functions are a functions with return type, a functions a function without parameter and without return type, a function with parameter and no return type, a function which will be having both parameters and return type, and fourth, a function without parameter but with a return type. Fine. So uh, today I've written the whole thing in Python, but the moment when we'll be solving any particular problem, so I'll be writing the code in all of the language, that is C++, Python, and Java. Right. So guys, you have 5 minutes. If you want to ask anything, please ask, or it can be related with anything like we have discussed in orientation also. It can be related with anything. You can ask. Yeah. Mohan, Raj, Shrutika Patil. You can go ahead. Shrutika, Akash, you can go ahead.
Sir, can you describe parameters and arguments?
Yeah, sure. Basically, what we are doing, that is Akash, right? So basically, what we are doing, see here. So the moment when I'm defining this function, I have passed a comma b as a parameter, and the moment when I'm calling this function, I'm passing 10 and 50. Fine. So the moment when I'm declaring this function, I'm passing two references that man आगे जाके इन references में value fill किया जाएगा. Fine. So I'm just denoting this thing. This function will be carrying values, but while declaring that, I'm just passing the reference of those two values. And when I'm calling this function, I'm passing the actual value. So while declaration, the values which are being passed are called as parameters, and while calling that function, the actual values which are being passed are called as arguments. Am I clear, Akash? Akash, am I clear?
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, Shrutika. Shrutika, you can go ahead. You've raised your hand. Anyone? इसको कुछ पूछना है? Anything related with DSA or anything? Which programming language will you be using from now on? Guys, we will be writing the whole thing in all of the three languages. Fine, in Java, in C++, in Python. But in short, I'll be writing the code in one of the language and I'll be converting the logic in different languages. You don't have to be worried about that. Fine, give me a moment. Give me a moment. Okay. Uh, which tech stack to learn for placement along with DSA? You can go with MERN stack, man. And if you are good at Java, you can go with Spring Boot. Anything else? By the way, how was your session? Can you can you just give me a feedback, a normal feedback? If you cannot unmute
Yeah.
yourself, you can just rate me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, Akash.
Yeah, it's good. I think we learn lots of things.
Okay.
We
Okay.
start from scratch and small things. So I think it's good.
Thanks, man.
Um, yeah, I want to add one point.
Yeah,
Can
sure.
you can you give some little bit um, index or syllabus so that tomorrow
Yeah,
what
sure.
you
Yeah,
will?
sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Let me complete, Akash. So the thing is ki,
Yes.
it was an introduction class. Fine. Even I was not expecting the very best thing for today. But the thing is ki, from tomorrow onwards, I'll be sharing some sort of questions, and those questions will be that questions which we will be discussing in that same class, right? So इसलिए आप थोड़ा बहुत वो क्वेश्चन देख के आएंगे, थोड़ा बहुत टॉपिक देख के आएंगे, and we'll be starting with that. Fine.
Sure, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Being at start feels little boring, and after that, sign. Okay. Guys, let's connect on LinkedIn. Are we connected? It will be good when we solve problems. Yeah, someone was speaking, but the explanation is too advanced. No, man, it's not that much of advanced. It's just the basic thing. No worries, no worries. Is it like that, guys? Is it too advanced? I think I have just covered the basic things of a programming language. That's it. Where we can find recording. The moment when I'm gonna wrap this meeting, uh, Vijay sir is having your emails, right? So I'll be sharing an YouTube private video link, right? So you can access from that. Yeah, I'm sending. I'm sending. Sagar Mohante. So I'm sharing my LinkedIn. Fine. Give me a moment.